Hello YouTube, Cricket and Corky's Clubhouse, back for another video. Of course, you are looking at Jill, and I'm excited. I thought I had to wait until I got some more parts in to work on building another Jill. I just finished number 4 or 5, I think 4. But anyway, last night I was digging through parts and I actually found a battery pack that had a good fuse in it, so I was able to start another Jill. So this is where I usually start from. I put the battery pack in, I found a good circuit board and added it. Next I added a cassette player and made sure it worked, played a tape. Once I got the audio going through the speaker, then that's when I move on to the next steps. And that would be the arms. So here is what the arm mechanism looks like without the arms. It's just the little cups that go in there. But I thought I'd do a video to show you, try to show you anyway. It's difficult again, I need to like invest in a mounting something that hooks to the table so I don't have to hold the phone. I am so amateur, but it's okay because I'm just here to spread technology and share information. So it is what it is. I'm not a film editor. But anyway, I thought I would show you how to repair the arms, or at least how to change the bands and kind of what you're looking at when you deal with the arms. I will give a disclaimer. The arms are the thing I have the most problem with. So I have not completely mastered the arms. Normally when I change the bands, it's like you plug it in and it either works or it doesn't, or it does crazy stuff where it shakes and moves around, and I don't know all the technical terms for it, but it doesn't always work. But I am going to at least show you how to change the bands. So, shoot, we're going to go over here to my little workstation here. And here is basically another set of arms that's out of Jill. And actually, here it is even more broken down. So this one is quite dismantled. You don't have to go that far, but I'll come back to that in a minute. But this is what it looks like. So if it's setting in Jill, this is what you see. So this is the left and the right arms. And on the side, you have a little board here, a little circuitry board, and that's the little metal rake that goes over these circuits that reads to make the arms go up and down when they're supposed to. So obviously one on either side. So some of the common, my kitty hair is going here. I think that's kitty hair. Yeah, it is. It's hard to see. So one of the common, oh my goodness, this hair is being aggressive, y'all. Okay. Yes. So one of the common issues with her arms breaking are usually the peg from the arm will break off inside here. It's hard to see in there, but there's a little clamp that goes down in the bottom there, and that will break, the arm will break off. Sometimes completely the arm will come out, the whole little piece, because the little part has broken, or sometimes the whole connection that goes into that slot breaks off in the slot. If that's the case, not as fun to fix because you have to take all of that apart to get to it and get pliers and stuff. Not cool. But usually the arm breaks from in there. Some things that deal with this particular box here, sometimes this little piece of plastic will break, this little ring inside here. That's not good because that's what holds the arm in there. And then often these break. This little rake, this pops off here. I always think it's funny because it looks like it has little ears. Hello. Sorry, I need my afternoon coffee. But anyway, sometimes this breaks as well. So I think I have one here. I have a couple of things I can show you that are broken. I don't ever throw anything away. So here is one of the little rakes. And see, this is broke here. It's not going to, of course, it's not going to. Here it is. So it's broke. Someone tried to melt it or solder it or whatever, but that's broke. So now it doesn't have a firm connection. And also, here's that little piece I was talking about. So you see this one broke. So I had to go in there and take this out. But Yeah, not good if this breaks. Doesn't happen often, but I've seen it a few times. Here's one that's whole. So anyway, so if that's broken, the problem is that's literally what goes up and down to make the arm go up and down. So if that's broke, you're not going to get a possible good connection there. All right, so now to get to where we need to get to, there's two separate motors and there's two separate bands inside of here because their arms they need the power. So to get to these, you have to split these apart. But you have to be careful because these wires don't come apart. So this thing has to stay connected. And if you're too rough with it or it gets too far apart, you could easily break these wires off and then you have to resolder them. Nobody wants to do that. So, all right. So to get these things apart, you have to take off one of these plates, but you only have to do it once. So you have to see down in that hole down there in the bottom left, you can see the screw. So this side has the screws, this other side doesn't. So I don't have to do anything with this side. What I need to do is get into, there's a screw down there in the left, and then above it, covered underneath that plate, there's another one. So obviously that means I have to take all this off. And to do that, all I have to do is remove this little screw here. So once I take that off, then I can pop off this, and this part here, you just push up on those little tabs and it'll pop off as well. And then I'm able to get in there to get to the screws. So I obviously can't do that with one hand. So I'm gonna have to stop the video and come back and edit it. But I'll be using this little guy to get this off, and then I'll come back after I get these two pieces separated. This came off another one, but just to show you, I've gotten jewels in all sorts of disrepair. So this was literally like, the piece wasn't even there. Like it's just, like I said, I normally keep everything, but this is garbage. Like you break a circuit board like that, it's done for. All right. Give me a second and I'll get this thing apart. All right, I have got this opened up here. So as you see, that's one side and here's the other. Now I went ahead and took out 3 screws here. So I took out the one here at the top and then these 2 at the bottom. So there they are. One of them is really long. Wow! That was a blooper. One of them, the top one is really long, and then there's 2 short ones. So that is the case, and then once you open this, here's where the band is, and then I'll show you what normally happens. Normally I don't do this with one hand. Come on. All right, there we go. So normally when you open it, you see there's the band. This little pole that holds down the gears comes out almost every time. So what that means is that all the little gears, let me move this guy, all the little gears underneath, all inside there, have all now come dislodged. So that means that I'm going to have to take off the next level and I have to go in there and reset all of those cogs. That's super important to do, even if you think maybe like, it's probably good. If you put all of this back together and go through all that trouble and then put it in Jill, and those cogs aren't lined up, you're gonna hear all this like crunching noise, and since the cogs are 35 years old and made of plastic, they could easily break. So I highly recommend you just take the extra step and go ahead and open that up and realign everything. So here is the band. You notice it looks like a very thin egg. So it's obviously supposed to be round, but what has happened over the years, those have just frozen in time like that, and they have hardened. And so now when it tries to go, it's just running. It's like spinning tires in a mud ditch. It's not going anywhere. This one actually doesn't look horrible, but we're gonna go ahead and replace it anyway. But before I even worry about that, now like I said, I have to take this whole part off and go down inside here. So let's see. All right, yep, so I'm gonna take these 2 out. And again, almost impossible to do this trying to hold a phone. This is why I haven't done this video. All right. Yeah, that's not gonna work. All right, I'm gonna have to pause it and I will come back after I get those 2 screws out. All right, so we're back. You see I've taken those out and I've left the screws in there so I can know what goes where. And this is what it looks like without any cogs in there. I went ahead and removed all of those. So it's like a layer of a cake. You just go up and down. Now what I do is I lay them out in order the way they came out. That way when I put them back, I know exactly where they go. It looked like they were pretty much in order. I went ahead and put the little knob back down in there in the hole at the bottom. But I am going to go ahead and use this. So this is, it's trying to focus there. Super Lube. It's multi-purpose. Yeah, it's not going to. This iPhone, I swear. Basically, it's just multi-purpose synthetic grease. So I use this to put down in between each layer. I use this because it's good for plastic. I know people use all sorts of different kinds of grease and oil lubricants on these things, and sometimes it drives me nuts. I have opened Jill's before. People have used the more liquid-based oil, and it's on everything. It literally looks like the whole thing was submerged at some point. So I have to end up getting Q-tips and trying to clean it. It gets all down the crevices. I mean, it's messy. This is not messy, and it has always served me well for all of the different plastic parts I put it on. All right, so I put a little already down there on that bottom, on the cog, and now I'm just going to drop these back down in one at a time. So I have a little pair of handy dandy tweezers. See, so now that one's down there. So now I'm gonna go back in, like I said, and layer. So I'm gonna put a little more grease, and I'm gonna layer. Boop. And a little more. I just opened a fresh bottle, and it's quite nice. I'm used to having to like really work to get all that out of there. All right, that little guy, and then the last one will go right on top here. Okay, so there we are. So everything's back in. We'll go ahead and put a little here on the top, just so when I get everything back and running. So now the next step is to put the lid back on. And once the lid goes back on, and then that final gear that I took off in the beginning, which I think it went, nope, there it is. I thought it was going flying somewhere. This is basically the top gear. So this is the one that holds the band. So this will go on last. So now what I'm gonna do, like I said, I'm gonna put this back on. Basically, this just goes right on top. And then that last cog's gonna go down in that big hole there, and it connects. So I'll put a little more lubricant right there so it can connect, and then I'll put the band on. So I'm gonna cut this because I don't want to mess up, because if you slightly are to jar any of that, you have to start all the way back over, which is never fun. So I'm gonna put the lid back on and then see about getting a band. Look at that, with the power of editing, it's all put back together. So basically I put the lid back on, I dropped that last little cog in there, and then I put a new band in. So here's the old band. And basically what I do is, you probably can't see them because of the table. Let's see here, get them out here. But see, there's different size bands. Obviously those don't match. So I have a whole variety pack of different bands that I got. These are cassette bands that you can get off of Amazon. And I basically just play until I find one I like. So that one is close. See if I was to hold it out. But I like them a little tighter because they're gonna stretch anyway. So I'm not gonna try to find one that's exactly that size. I wanna find one that's close. That's pretty good. We like that. It's a variety pack, so you just never know what you're gonna get. But it looks like those are probably going to be a good size. Let's see, let's try one more here. Nope, nope, wrong one. That's obviously way too small. There we go. Let's see. Yeah, that one looks a little more to size. Yep, good. So there we go. We found a match. So I already put one on here, but I have to do the other arm, so I will hold that one for there. All right, and then the last step is now that band it's not super tight, but you have to be careful because sometimes this will try to lift back up. You remember we've lubed the whole thing with lubricant grease, so it's easy for it to slide around. So this one, I just kind of let go ever so slowly and it stayed in place. But sometimes you have to literally keep it held down with your finger while you put the top back on. So basically the top is going to fit. So you see the little indentation here at the top, that's going to go right over that knob, and then click, it goes down, and then there's the 3 screw holes, one at the top and 2 down there at the bottom. And that's it. Then that side is done. So then basically I'm just going to go back and do the same thing to the other side, start back over and take them apart. And then everything just gets reversed. So then I put them back together. I put the 2 screws back down into these holes here to put them back together. I put the plate back on, I screw it back on, and then I put the little rake back on. Ta-da. And that's it. And then we test to see if they work. Now, a lot of times, I'm lucky, and that's the reason I'm doing now with this video, is that there's not arms attached. A lot of times the arms are still attached, which is good because it's hard to find ones without broken arms, but it's a lot harder to get in there. I don't recommend trying to pop the arms out because those pegs that hold the arms in there are super old plastic and they break so easy that you're probably going to break the pegs off and then your arm is just garbage. So you kind of just have to work around it. So basically everything I just did, I still do, just with the big arms flopping around. The only part that gets a little tricky is when you're trying to get out this little bitty screw out of here because that plate is in the way. Remember there's like a saucer that sets into Jill's arm? Well, that is in between the arm and this. So it can get tricky, but you can do it if you raise it just right and put your little screwdriver in there. You can get that screw out, and then instead of removing that board, I just move it over so I can get down to those screws in here. So it's definitely a lot harder, but it can be done. But if you can get to the bands before there's arms on there, that's a win-win because it's so much easier. All right, so no need to see the other side. We've already done that. But I guess actually before I wrap up, so remember we talked about if you do need to get the arms out and if they're broken. Whew. So everything we just did is, let me move over here. Everything we did is inside this box, right? So basically this is what you need to get out. This is where you get that little tube there. That's where the arms are clamped in. So you have to remove, there's 4 of these, there's 2 on the other side. And you have to move those out. So it can be pretty tricky. The problem is on the other side, you see the wires, those don't come out. So you're trying to move that piece out of this casing and not damage your wires. It's very tricky. So here's one that I had to tear open. So you see the wires are still attached, but I had to pull basically the whole motor, the whole casing out, just to get to this piece that was connected on here, which is that little plastic piece that I showed you that broke off, this guy. So it's a lot more work and there's a lot more chance of error of you ripping out cords. So you just want to be very careful if you have to go in there and remove that, but it's really the only way to get the arms out from those clamps, because if you try to pull it out, it's probably going to break. Then your arm is toast. So I'm working with someone to try to get replacements for those parts. Hopefully this summer we'll see that. But all right, so that's it for this part of the video. I am going to do one more quick edit where I'm going to have it in Jill and we're going to see what we get. You never know. It's luck of the draw if it's going to work or not. All right, be right back. Okay, we're back over here at Jill. I have removed that set of arm motors, and here's the one we just repaired. I did have a snafu, So the screws down here at the bottom, they go in those little slots. There were still screws in there, and apparently wherever this set came from, I have to look because I could have the torso, but let me put this down so I can point. Basically, these pieces here, these plastic pieces, were broke off from the torso, and they were jammed still into the arm mechanism. So I had to get real crafty and try to dig that plastic out because those screws were stuck in there. So it was successful, but just, you know, something to look out for. This plastic is old. All right, so now this is just going to slide right down in there. You'll see, let's see right here, these grooves. These are going to be where the arms slide down. This is where your head piece slides into. Very tricky once you get to the head because it's hard. You can't see down in there. Try not to hit wires, but all right. So I'm just going to try to drop this in here. Again, super fun with one hand. Love it. All right. And everything, I mean, they built this dude to fit like right in there too. You don't play around with this thing. There's no room for movement. All right. Well, I don't really want to have to stop the video, but I don't want to break this either in the sake of trying to make a video. So it's not quite down in there yet. It's still, let's see, this side is in, this side is in. It's just not quite connecting. You'll know when it connects because it kind of falls into place. And the screw holes are lined up. Let's see. All right. I'll take it. Looks good. Okay. So now we'll pop these in there just to give it a little stability because this is normally where the arms are. So you see the arm would go through this little hole here. Now if you plug that in, it's not going to work because we're missing a key component, the head. So there's another plate that goes above this where basically where the neck is. So that's the little rake that goes across to make the head go left and right. But they decided this goes down into the body, but they decided this is also where the plug-ins to the arms are. So, you know, we have these on the side. They have no power because this neck plate has to plug in there. So you can test this plate. You don't have to have a head to test the arms. Head's always the last thing I'll put on. So I am going to have to stop the video again because this is tricky, but basically we got it flipped around. Doop. So it's going to go right down in there. And then these I'll show you plug in to the side there. All right, be right back after I get this inside right down in there. All right, so we got everything in. You see I've now plugged that down in there, and these two are now inserted into the circuit boards. This guy runs down into here, and everything is in place. So, you know, I like to test things, see how they work. I did put her in and start running, and I ran into another problem, which doesn't have anything to do with this, but it's a great example because it's been a while since I've had it happen. But Jill was playing and doing her thing, and she started sounding all grumbly, and she ate her tape. So this is just gonna happen. I've had it happen. I've played, you know, a bunch of tapes, but every once in a blue moon, she eats a tape. So it can be fixed. Obviously, I can slowly get that rewound and put back into place. The problem is, as you see now, it's where it's all crunchy. That can't be fixed. You can flatten it out a little bit, but you know, that's a lot of the reasons why when you hear Jill tapes and they sound all warped, it's because, you know, 35 years of being played, odds are most of them have done this at some point. So It's rare to find one that has it. But anyway, I just wanted to show you that, so I will get that carefully rewound back in there. Luckily, I caught it before it got too crazy. One of the signs is she'll start playing normally, so you have no clue. And then all of a sudden, it starts really quickly getting garbled sounding, and that lets you know that it's being spooled into here. So luckily, I stopped it with not too much tape out. Still more than I want, but anyway, all right, so I'm going to get that back in, and then we can get back to testing our arms.
I was reading a magazine the other day, and there
All
was
right,
a
we're
quiz
back,
that
and
said,
you see I went ahead and
"You
put her
have
head back
dark quality?"
on and got
I guess it
her
meant that
torso
some
back
people
together.
are just born to be movie stars,
Here
and
we
some
go.
people have to work harder at it.
Move your hair,
So
Jill.
since I really want to be a
So there
star
we are.
someday,
So you'll
I
see
took
it
the
moves,
quiz.
it goes
But I
back and
won't show
forth.
you my score until you take the quiz too. Pretty sneaky, huh? I remember most of the quiz, so I'll just ask you the questions.
So they're good to
And you
go.
can tell me your answers.
And I went in and put the
Or
head
if you're not in
on,
the
so
mood
her
for the
neck
quiz,
works. So now if you hear
maybe
that
you'd like to hear my favorite new song.
buzzing,
And I know we could do a fashion
that
show
is the
while I'm
last
singing
step
it.
is to fix her
Because
head.
you know me,
So
I love to change my clothes about
next,
a
I will
zillion
wash
times
her
a day.
hair, and
Either one
I
sounds
already
great
did a
to me,
video on that.
so you decide.
And then
Should we
I'll
do
work
the
on the back
quiz
of her
or the
head.
fashion show?
All right. Let's do the fashion show. But that's it for now. I hope this gave you some
Let's
insight
do
on
a
how
fashion
Jill's
show.
arms work.
You decide what to
And,
wear, and I'll sing my new song.
good luck
and
if you try
can
to work
model,
on them.
okay?
And
Hey,
if you have any
before we
questions,
start,
leave them in the
do you have
comments.
any
Thanks
jewelry I
again
could
for
borrow?
watching my
If you let me
videos
borrow
and
something, I
subscribing.
promise I'll
We'll
let
see
you
you
borrow
next
my
time.
things anytime you want. Yes or no?
No.
You must have had a bad day.
After
That's
working on your
okay.
arms, yes.
Well, I'm ready when you are. Just tell me when you're ready to model by saying,
Bye,
"Go,
Jill."